Good evening and welcome. I'm Rahul Kanwal. You're watching India Today. We've got big breaking news coming in right on the top of our broadcast this Sunday evening. This is Aapka Scam Part 3. On India Today this evening, we will show you the shocking and disturbing video testimony of an PWD engineer who reveals how Arvind Kejriwal's nephew called him up and hollered at him and said, "Tu janta hai mera mausa kaun hai?" when this PWD engineer had the temerity to complain about the shoddy quality of the work and the dubious activities of Kejriwal's brother-in-law's firm. This is an India Today exclusive after Part 1 and Part 2. We now bring you Aapka Scam Part 3.
अब पता नहीं काम तो खैर ये कम रेट कम डाल के ले रखा था इसने 42% देखो कितना रेट था तो काम तो अपने आप ही लिया होगा कम रेट डाल के तो आएगा लेकिन वो रेट इतने थे काम नहीं कर सकता था ये मेरे रहते तेरे काम शुरू नहीं किया क्योंकि मैं तो स्पष्ट कह दिया था भाई काम जो है ठीक ठाक होगा मेरे ट्रांसफर इसीलिए कराया परेशान हो गए
प्रेशर बना रहे हो गवर्नमेंट भी कैसे आपको
नहीं उन्होंने किसी ने कुछ नहीं है क्यों मैं मानने वाला नहीं सबको पता था मेरे सीनियर को मैं मानने वाला नहीं वो रास्ता ये बनाया तो उसको भी एक्शन में ये कह दिया भाई तू छुट्टी वाले दिन कर ले यही नहीं मान सकता वरना मैं खोलूंगा उसको फिर भी इतवार के संडे के दिन काटना शुरू कर दिया 3 अप्रैल का संडे था मैंने उसी दिन मेरे को बता दिया किसी ने फोन आ गया वर्कर का मैं पहुँच गया मैंने बंद करा दिया इसका फोन आया फिर मेरे पास मैं ये कर दूंगा वो कर दूंगा मगा भाई मैं नहीं सुना था इतना नहीं काटने को अपना एक्शन में फॉलो कर दिया मगर एक्शन इनने जैसे 3 अप्रैल की कहानी है कुछ दिन तो चलता रहा 3 अप्रैल के एंड में या मई के 1-2 तारीख को मेरी फाइल चलेगी ट्रांसफर के लिए सेक्रेटरी मुझे पता लग गया मैंने भी मेरी गलती क्या है बताओ तो कर करा के फिर वो रहने दिया कैंसिल कर दिया मैं NOC ले रखी तो मैं गया था अमेरिका 6 मई को टिकट मेरी बेटी रहती है मैं वहाँ चला गया इन्हें 10 मई को ट्रांसफर कर दिया रिलीव कर दिया छुट्टी होते 22 तक छुट्टी निकली और पेपर में भी दे दिया था
इसका मंत्री कौन था उस टाइम पे जैन नहीं कराया
जैन नहीं कराया इनका ये विनय गोयल का सगा जीजा जैन का OSD निकुंज अग्रवाल
तो विनय ने जैन
A PWD engineer who complained about the dubious activities of the firm run by Arvind Kejriwal's brother-in-law, transferred. He talks about how he got threatening calls from Surinder Bansal's son, who happens to be Arvind Kejriwal's nephew. The question is, why was this whistleblower PWD engineer transferred soon after this complaint? We have a lot to talk about over the next 1 hour. We'll bring you all the dimensions of this breaking story. Here's a letter written by an assistant engineer in the PWD department. In this letter, this engineer complains about how work was being done by Renu Construction and that work was not satisfactory. Soon after he filed a complaint, he says he received a call from a person who identified himself as Vinay Kumar from Renu Constructions, who said that these people should not be threatened and that there's a threat to his life. He said, let them do what they want. Now, what is extraordinary about this complaint is that the company that he's referring to happens to be a company run by Arvind Kejriwal's brother-in-law, and the person who seems to have given this threat call is Arvind Kejriwal's nephew. Now, soon after this complaint was filed, it's a formal complaint to the Assistant Commissioner of Police in Nangloi. This happened in April 2016. This officer says he was transferred after he filed a formal written complaint to his office, senior officers and to the police. Now, why did the Aam Aadmi Party government not come to the rescue of this whistleblower officer? So what if the company whose dubious activities he was complaining against happened to be a company run by the Chief Minister's brother-in-law? There are very, very serious and very disturbing questions that the Aam Aadmi Party needs to answer. Before that, let me get you Aapka Scam Part 3.
Bribery, fake bills, hawala transactions, money laundering. And now, irrefutable proof of how deeply entrenched nepotism is in the Aam Aadmi Party government in Delhi. Meet Dinesh Sharma, a former engineer in the Delhi Public Works Department. A government official who was allegedly arm-twisted into abiding by the writ of Renu Constructions, the company which belongs to Kejriwal's deceased brother-in-law, Surinder Bansal. Sharma claims Bansal's son Vinay Kumar called him in April last year and threatened him with the line, "Tu janta nahi mera mausa kaun hai."
अब पता नहीं, काम तो खैर ये कम रेट कम डाल के ले रखा था इसने, 42% कितना रेट था, तो काम तो अपने आप ही लिया हुआ, कम रेट डाल के तो आएगा, लेकिन वो रेट इतने से काम नहीं कर सकता था। मेरे रहते तेरे काम शुरू नहीं किया, क्योंकि मैं तो स्पष्ट कह दिया था भाई काम जो है ठीक ठाक होगा। मेरे ट्रांसफर इसलिए कराया, परेशान हो गए,
प्रेशर बना रहा हूँ गवर्नमेंट के साथ
नहीं उनने किसी ने कुछ नहीं है, क्यों मैं मानने वाला, सबको पता था मेरे सीनियर को, मैं मानने वाला नहीं। वो रास्ता ये बनाया तो उसको भी एक्शन नहीं कह दिया भाई तू छुट्टी वाले दिन कर ले, यही नहीं मान सकता, वरना मैं कहूँगा उसको। फिर भी इतवार के संडे के दिन काटना शुरू कर दिया, 3 अप्रैल का संडे था, मैंने उसी दिन मेरे को बता दिया, किसी ने फोन आ गया वर्कर का, मैं पहुँच गया, मैंने बंद करा दिया। इसका फोन आया फिर मेरे पास, मैं ये कर दूंगा वो कर दूंगा, मगा भाई मैं नहीं सुना था, इतना नहीं काटने दूंगा, अपना एक्शन अलाउ कर दिया, मगर एक्शन।
Yes, you heard it right. An engineer in Jain's PWD department suffered because of Kejriwal's kin. And when he refused to give in, Sharma claims he was transferred out of the department in May 2016.
जैसे 3 अप्रैल की कहानी है, कुछ दिन तो चलता रहा, फिर 3 अप्रैल के एंड में या मई के 1-2 तारीख को मेरी फाइल चलेगी ट्रांसफर के लिए सेक्रेटरी, मुझे पता लग गया, मैंने भी मेरी गलती क्या है बताओ, तो करा कर फिर वो रहने दिया, कैंसिल कर दिया। मैं एनओसी ले रखी थी, मैं गया था अमेरिका 6 मई को, टिकट मेरी बेटी रहती है, मैं वहाँ चला गया, इन्हें 10 मई को ट्रांसफर कर दिया, रिलीव कर दिया, छुट्टी में होते 22 तक छुट्टी नहीं मिली, और पेपर में भी दे दिया था।
इसका मंत्री कौन था उस टाइम पे?
इसके अंदर
जैन नहीं कराया,
जैन नहीं कराया, इनका ये विनय गोयल का सगा जीजा जैन का ओएसडी निकुंज अग्रवाल।
तो विनय ने
The engineer made more startling revelations. In a letter to the Assistant Commissioner of Police, Sharma exposes the modus operandi employed by contractors under the Aam Aadmi Party government. He caught a group of people demolishing a perfectly built drain just so that they would be paid to build it again. When he tried to stop the demolition crew, Kejriwal's nephew called him and threatened him with his life.
हम शॉक्ड हैं कि अरविंद केजरीवाल के साड़ू कोई माफिया थे क्या? उनके घर के लोग इतनी गुंडागर्दी कर करके और अपने साड़ू के मुख्यमंत्री पद पे बने रहने से इतने सारे कार्यक्रम, इतने सारे भ्रष्ट कार्य करते थे।
First, Renu Constructions, the firm headed by Kejriwal's brother-in-law, produced fake bills to get tenders at inflated rates. Their shoddy work was highlighted by the PWD officials, internal notes which fell on deaf ears. And now, nepotism of the worst kind. The common refrain that reeks of entitlement. Tu janta nahi mera relative kaun hai? Begging the question, was Kejriwal silent on gross corruption? With Syed Masroor Hassan and Mohammad Hizbullah in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
Now there are some very, very disturbing questions the Aam Aadmi Party needs to answer. And I must make an open declaration before we go any further that this evening we requested the Aam Aadmi Party media wing to depute an official spokesperson to join us. I spoke to a gentleman by the name of Vikas Yogi who happens to be in charge of deputing guests. I was first told that they wanted to know what the story was. In all fairness, we explained the exact story. We wanted to give them an opportunity to put together a defense and give us a response. I was told that Ashish Khaitan will be joining us at 8 p.m. This was communicated officially by the media wing of the Aam Aadmi Party. Later, after we'd already explained what the story was, we received word from the Aam Aadmi Party saying that a spokesperson will not be joining us and that there will be no AAP voice on this show. We reached out to them, we were told an AAP voice will be coming. For whatever reasons, they decided to back out. But that doesn't mean that questions will not be asked, because questions, mind you, will be asked and they need to be answered. I've put together 9 questions that I believe that the Kejriwal government needs to answer. Question number 1. Why was the PWD engineer transferred soon after he filed a formal complaint against the dubious activities of Kejriwal's relatives' firm? Is Kapil Mishra correct when he says that Kejriwal's brother-in-law attended government meetings in the Delhi Secretariat? Remember, Kapil Mishra was in India Today, where he leveled this charge saying everybody in the Secretariat knew who Surinder Bansal was, that he'd be in and out of meetings. Is he correct when he says that? Question number 3. Why is Arvind Kejriwal silent on the dubious activities of the firm run by his brother-in-law? Remember, on India Today, we've been saying it's possible Kejriwal did not know about what his brother-in-law was doing. However, if that is the case, why doesn't he simply come out and say so? Why is he avoiding our cameras? I will show you what happened when our colleague Anandya Banerjee tried to speak to him over the last 2 days. Also, in keeping with the principle of a high moral ground, should Kejriwal not have told his brother-in-law not to apply for contracts when he was chief minister? This guy is a contractor, so he could have said, apply elsewhere, apply in Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh, wherever you please. Don't apply for commercial contracts in Delhi, because it can potentially create a conflict of interest situation. Even if I don't know, officials know who you are, and that's not good. Isn't that what Kejriwal would have wanted another leader to do? Did Kejriwal know about the repeated complaints being made by PWD engineers? Remember, in part 2, we showed you how there was not 1, not 2, but multiple complaints from the PWD department, where engineers were complaining about the shoddy and defective work of Kejriwal's brother-in-law's company. Also, why did the Kejriwal government not blacklist the firm run by the CM's brother-in-law? Now, imagine if the chief minister didn't know in January when the complainants went public with this information. At that time, at least, why was this company not blacklisted? In fact, it still hasn't been blacklisted. Why was the contract given to the brother-in-law's firm cancelled only after the complainants went to the press? Internal red flags had been raised long before that, but the contract was cancelled only after a public press conference. Is it okay for the chief minister's kin to be intimidating government officers? Why is the Aam Aadmi Party not speaking? Very simple, straight, direct, tough questions they need to answer. How are the charges against Kejriwal's kin different from the charges against Robert Vadra? Remember, nobody alleged at that time that Sonia Gandhi or Rahul Gandhi themselves willingly wanted that Robert Vadra be given preferential treatment. However, just because of who he was, as the damad of the first family, officials and bureaucrats and politicians seem to have been bending over backwards to extend special favors. Some of that seems to have happened in the case of Kejriwal's brother-in-law as well. How is it different given the huge campaign that Arvind Kejriwal ran against Robert Vadra and the Congress party? Very, very serious questions these. I want to introduce our guests joining us on this broadcast. I said earlier that the AAP has chosen not to answer our questions. They're saying we will not participate. They clearly seem to have no answers. Also with us on this broadcast at this time, Sambit Patra representing the BJP, Sanjay Jha representing the Congress party, Arun Bhatia is a well-respected former bureaucrat, anti-corruption crusader. Kislai is with me in the studio. Kislai is the lawyer for the complainant in the first story where we brought out, remember, Aapka Scam Part 1, fake bills by a non-existent company. Kislai is the lawyer of that company. Ankit Tyagi is my colleague. He covers the Aam Aadmi Party for India Today. I want to go across Sambit Patra first. Dr. Patra, the Aam Aadmi Party choosing not to send a representative on this broadcast. First, they wanted to know what our story was. Till they didn't know what our story was, they were willing to come and they were willing to participate. They heard me explain the entire story and suddenly decided to have a change in mind. What do you make, sir, of Aapka Scam Part 3?
First, Rahul, let me congratulate you and your channel for the kind of exposés that you have been making, because these are quite stunning exposés. And let me tell you, the silence of the Aam Aadmi Party, since they have defied that they would not come to any of these debate of yours, this is deafening. And this in fact reeks of acceptance of guilt, because had they any kind of proof with them contrary to what you are showing, had they a point of view, then naturally they would have come here and they would have showcased that proof. That they don't have any. In fact, this silence is deafening, and this is the silence of corruption as far as Aam Aadmi Party is concerned. Today, after all these scams, Aam Aadmi Party scam 1, scam 2, scam 3, I don't know how many yet are to come. I would say that it is raining scams in Aam Aadmi Party. And today, in fact, the new name that Mr. Arvind Kejriwal has invited for himself is Captain Corrupt. Henceforth, I would call him Captain Corrupt. A man who masqueraded as if he was the messiah to fight against corruption, as if he was the one who would bring corruption on this earth to end, is the man who is the most corrupt person on the face of the Indian polity today. He is the biggest fraud of Indian politics that has taken place in the present time.
Sambit Patra, even though this is our expose and I believe that there are very serious questions AAP needs to answer, you're now calling Kejriwal corrupt. I don't have evidence, the India Today group doesn't have evidence to suggest that Kejriwal was personally corrupt. However, the fact that there were repeated complaints make against, let's be fair, yes, there are disturbing questions, we're asking those disturbing questions, but to say that Kejriwal is corrupt, frankly, we've got no evidence to suggest that. We've got no evidence to suggest he interfered in what was going on. But what we can say is that Kejriwal's officers, his minister knew that his relative's firm was a repeated offender. They knew that complaints were being filed by PWD engineers, and even now that firm has not been blacklisted. Yes, Dr. Patra, you want to complete what you're saying?
There are certain things which can be extrapolated and which can be derived from the story that you have right now shown us. And remember, there is a word in English dictionaries called as vicarious liability. So naturally, if your ministers knew, if your officers were aware of the wrongdoings of a company which belonged to your relatives, then by vicarious liability, the responsibility is on you to prove that you are not corrupt. And that's the reason as to why I say that unless you come with the proofs that you did not know, we would consider you as corrupt. Secondly, you had very pertinent questions, 9 questions if I'm right. Those questions itself puts Mr. Arvind Kejriwal in the dock. The question is, as Kapil Mishra had alleged in one of your shows, that this gentleman who is a relative of Mr. Arvind Kejriwal used to walk in and walk out of government meetings, and Mr. Kejriwal as the Chief Minister of Delhi would be aware of this fact that his relative was walking in, walking out. So he should have sued him. He should have actually thrown him out of the offices, saying, how dare you walk into the government offices? How dare you walk into these government meetings? You are just a contractor.
Given
you
the
would
fact,
know how the government is proceeding.
Given the fact, Sanjay Jha, that Kejriwal likes to project that he is this great apostle of honesty, integrity, should he not been up front and told his brother-in-law, I know you've been a contractor in the past, but till the time I'm Chief Minister, do not apply for contracts in the Delhi government. Apply for contracts in UP, Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan, wherever you want. Don't apply for contracts here. It can create a potential conflict of interest. I will not be comfortable. Is that not a very basic expectation to have from somebody who preaches from the pulpit like Kejriwal does?
Rahul, I completely agree with you. Both AAP and BJP are our political adversaries. And I can tell you that both of them are exercising some extraordinary hypocrisy here. Where Mr. Kejriwal is concerned, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's not just because of the fact that the AAP became a very self-righteous party which was damning everybody else but treating itself as a paragon of virtues. The truth of the matter, Rahul, is that if you have a close relative in a commercial contract, you exercise very high level of due diligence. End of day in today's democratic world and, very omnipresent media, these things inevitably will come into the public domain. So I'm very surprised how Mr. Kejriwal has allowed it to happen. And if today, with the allegations mounting, if the AAP is, so disquietingly, then I think there's something that they need to explain to the people of Delhi and to the people of India. As far as even the BJP
what
is concerned, let me tell you
this,
this,
seems to have happened?
Rahul,
We received calls from the Aam Aadmi Party asking us about the story. They told us that Ashish Khaitan will be representing Arvind Kejriwal. They said the Chief Minister is not speaking, but Kejriwal is Khaitan is his voice and he will speak on the party's behalf. Suddenly the party seems to have done a U-turn and decided, after having heard what the expose was about, that they will not speak.
I think, Rahul, frankly speaking, one of the
Ankit?
things that you have covered the Congress for a long time, and we have been at the end.
Right, Rahul. Okay, so what I can tell you is that I've just spoken to senior leaders in the Aam Aadmi Party, and what they officially are saying that they require an email with all the details of this expose before they could come up with their answer to this. But I can also tell you that there is right now, a serious meeting, serious discussions going in within the Aam Aadmi Party about the kind of material that is coming out, especially with regard to Arvind Kejriwal's kith and kin. Although they are trying to verify whether, what was that complaint that was made by the PWD engineer. They have also, I've been told, somebody from the Aam Aadmi Party from Satyendra Jain's department is right now trying to see what complaints were made. So there is this entire back-end process of trying to verify and what has been said, because they haven't sent anybody today, but this will be picked up tomorrow. These questions will be asked of any press conference tomorrow. At that point of time, they would want to keep themselves ready. But as of now, the official reason that has been given is that it is a sting operation. You should have sent us a set of questions on email along with what you are going to bring out. Only then we could have come prepared to answer these questions, Rahul.
Well, that's a little unfair on the part of the Aam Aadmi Party, because they asked us exactly what the story was about. We read out the documents to them. We told them exactly what was being said, and they said that would be enough for them to send somebody. This, of course, is just an excuse for not having sent a spokesperson and for running away. Kishle, I want to understand from you, as somebody who's been tracking this case from the beginning, they're now saying that, okay, let's look at the PWD files, let's look at whether this complaint exists, let's look at what Dinesh said in this complaint. Did they not know about this earlier? Is it possible that, whether it's Kejriwal or not, but higher-ups in the Kejriwal government did not know exactly what the brother-in-law's firm was doing?
Of course, this is very alarming and dangerous, that a person who is coming up front to lodge the complaint, this is how you are treating him. And it is very terrifying. In fact, we are afraid as to how the fair investigation will be ensured. Because if anybody from PWD department goes before the court and lodges the evidences, witnesses, etc., they will be intimidated by Mr. Kejriwal and their other officials, etc. So there is no chance for fair investigation till they are controlling the entire command. And this is very dangerous.
Arun Bhatia, as an independent former bureaucrat, corruption crusader, anti-corruption crusader, what do you make of Aapka Scam Part 3? The fact that you've got a PWD engineer who's filing a written complaint. It's not as if he's just woken up, seen that the Kejriwal government is in trouble and therefore started speaking out. On 11/4/2016, the 11th of April 2016, he filed a written complaint. I have the file number, I have the official complaint, where he talks about how he's being threatened by Arvind Kejriwal's nephew. Instead of acting against him, this man is transferred. And now the Aam Aadmi Party refusing to speak. What do you make of Aapka Scam Part 3?
Yes, sir. The question whether Kejriwal knew what his brother-in-law was doing or not, or that he had an altercation with the engineer or not, is not so important as the fact that all this has come out in the media, and Kejriwal should immediately have come and denied this or given his explanation. In public life, you can't say that I will not come before the public. First you tell me what are the charges, let me do my homework, then I'll come. No. You come there, if you don't know something, you promise an inquiry within 3 days.
Put out Part 1 and Part 2 last week. At most they can say we didn't know the full details of Part 3. Part 1 and Part 2 were put out last week. Of course they knew what the expose was. Of course they knew what the investigation is about.
Yes, so what I'm saying is that he should come forward. In fact, he should use this as a golden opportunity. If he is innocent, this is a great opportunity given to him to show how his enemies are trying to defame him. That is
absolutely. Arvind Kejriwal can come and say, I didn't know what my brother-in-law was doing. There are so many questions. I put out a set of 9 questions that he needs to respond to. I would be very keen on hearing what he has to say, because whether he knew or not, there were officials and ministers in his government who knew exactly what was going on. That is established through documentary evidence. There is no going away from it. Could that explain Kejriwal's deafening silence. Welcome back. You're watching Aapka Scam Part 3. Disturbing questions that the Aam Aadmi Party seems to have no answers for. We were first told that Aam Aadmi Party will be sending someone to answer these questions. Now we're being told that AAP is not going to participate. It seems they have no clear answers at this time. Kumar Kunal is joining us. Kumar Kunal is our Metro Bureau editor. He's been leading the team that's put together the series of exposés. You know, what we've got, Kumar, is the PWD engineer in writing and on camera saying that he got threatening and intimidating calls from Kejriwal's brother-in-law's son. What do we know about what happened after? He says soon after his formal complaint, he was transferred out. What do we know that happened? Did he just complain to his senior official? Did the senior official inform Satinder Jain? Could Kejriwal have known? What have you been able to gather by speaking to various bureaucrats in the PWD department?
See, there are serious charges. First, the incident which took place, that happened last year on April 4th, and on the same day he has complained to the local SHO, the SHO of Nangloi police station, and he told him about the incident which took place. Even after 1 week, when nothing happened, he wrote a complaint later to local ACP. And what happened, and in between that period, within that 1 week, what we have learned from our sources, that he complained through various WhatsApp group, which was internal WhatsApp group for the PWD officials and senior engineers, and nothing has happened. The thing is that the same information has leaked to the contractor, which is in this this case is the Renu Construction Company, which is headed by Kejriwal's kin. And then what has happened is known to everyone. He has been transferred within a month, and he has transferred, not just transferred from the PW department internally, but he has transferred back to CPWD, which is the parent organization for all the PWD engineers. So that is a serious thing. And
message that goes out,
the
Sambit Patra, what's the message that goes out when an official who's acting as a whistleblower against a highly connected company, against the relative of the chief minister's brother-in-law, when he gets transferred out, you know, you're sending a message to everyone else that don't mess with this company because they happen to be related to the chief minister himself.
And Rahul, with all due respect, I would say that we are still providing a very long rope to Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, saying that we still do not know whether he's complicit in all this or not. No, he is complicit. And let me give you the reason as to why Mr. Kejriwal is complicit in this scam. Number one, the Part 2 expose of yours, in which you had pointed out that there were unverified invoices and unverified fake bills, which were cleared by the PWD minister then. And who was the PWD minister then? That was Satendra Jain. And the company was Renu Private Construction Limited, which belonged to Mr. Kejriwal's relative. So why was Mr. Satendra Jain helping out the Renu Constructions, knowing very well that these bills and invoices are not verified? Do we still think that Mr. Arvind Kejriwal did not know anything, and all this was happening just because Mr. Satendra Jain thought, let me help out the relative of Mr. Arvind Kejriwal? Now we have a second case of nepotism, where one of his relatives threatens the PWD minister. The PWD minister, despite complaining to the all required authorities, is transferred out and nothing happens. All this without Mr. Arvind Kejriwal knowing and without his complicity. All this proves that, well, yes, the PWD engineer, all this proves that Mr. Arvind Kejriwal knew this very well, and it was under the protective eye of Mr. Arvind Kejriwal that all this was taking place. In fact, I would say Mr. Kejriwal is quiet because there's nothing in defense. This is an indefensible
that's the point.
act of corruption and
that's
scam
the band
where
that's,
Mr.
that
Kejriwal has been caught.
His silence is deafening, Sanjay Jha. He should come out live on India Today, take our questions, give his side of the story, because otherwise people will imagine the worst. Whether he knew, he didn't know, he can come out and say, I didn't know, and later let's see if our investigative reporters can prove that he did. But so far he's not saying anything. Very, very serious charges are leveled. If this had been Sheila Dikshit's Congress government, and if Kejriwal were in opposition, chances are he'd probably be out on a dharna outside the Chief Minister's residence or office by now.
No, I agree, and I think both Mr. Kejriwal himself and the Aam Aadmi Party are both fairly media savvy, and I think end of day, by actually delaying a response, I mean, they are now seasoned politicians. They will realize that the consequences of the kind of allegations that have been made on them, the perception only will get worsening by the day for them. So there are going to be serious political repercussions of whatever are the allegations being made against them. But I think the issue is very straightforward and simplistic actually, Rahul. Either Mr. Kejriwal is guilty, in which case he will have to face the legal consequences and will probably have to quit if he is guilty. If he is not, and AAP is repeatedly claiming that it is a BJP conspiracy, then either ways we need to have evidence coming out in the public domain. Now, if AAP is guilty, and there are mounting, kind of pressures I can make out from the documentary evidence that is there on your channel and some others as well, it is clearly evident that there was financial skullduggery happening. If Mr. Kejriwal is guilty, I think there is no escape routes for any politician in today's life. If there is, and since AAP has been going on and on about BJP's involvement, and I can tell you this, that having been at the receiving end of a lot of political vendetta from the BJP, end of day they need to furnish the evidence to prove that this is indeed an organized attempt to try and humiliate or subjugate them.
No, but there are two or three things, Sanjay, which are not in contest.
I think we are actually witnessing an
when we had Ashish Khaitan on the 2 days that he did come on expose part 1 and part 2, they admitted, they accepted, because they've already been looking at these bills, these fake companies for a very, very long time. They had no response to the question about the fact that Arvind Kejriwal's brother-in-law submitted fake bills from a non-existent firm to claim crores of rupees from the PWD department. Somebody should have been checking that. Those bills were cleared, the money was paid, even though these were fake bills from a non-existent company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Initially they can say they did not know, but once they found out, even then they did not blacklist the company. That is totally baffling. Once you find out, why would you not act, even if you say initially you did not know?
Absolutely.
They still have contracts. Renu Construction still has a contract. I ran that story of the executive engineer of the North Department saying on record that there's one contract which is supposed to be completed in May. That contract was the work was supposed to complete in February 2017. It also says in the report of the executive engineer that the work being done is defective. It says so in the report of the executive engineer himself. I want to play out now an excerpt of my conversation with Kapil Mishra. Now, Kapil Mishra, till a few days ago, was one of the key ministers in the AAP government. He now, of course, is one of their strongest opponents, and he's spilling a lot of beans. Let's see what Kapil Mishra had to say about Arvind Kejriwal's brother-in-law and his style of operation in the Delhi Secretariat. Here's Kapil Mishra. तो आपका एग्जैक्ट चार्ज क्या है सतेंद्र जैन के खिलाफ? आप कह रहे हैं कि सुरिंदर बंसल को इन्होंने लैंड दी, सुरिंदर बंसल को कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स दिए, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स में फेक बिल थे। कल मैंने आशुतोष से ये सवाल पूछे, वो बड़ा रूठ गए मुझसे भी, आपसे भी, ये कहते हुए कि सुरिंदर बंसल की डेथ हुई है और उसके बाद आप इस तरह से उन पे छीटाकशी कर रहे हैं। उनका कहना है कि ये इनसेंसिटिव है, गलत है।
देखिए, उनकी मृत्यु कल हुई है, भगवान उनकी आत्मा को शांति दे, मैं उनकी आत्मा की शांति के लिए प्रार्थना कर रहा हूं। लेकिन कल ये डील नहीं हुई है। हम इन डील के बारे में सवाल नहीं कर रहे और व्यक्ति के बारे में सवाल नहीं कर रहे। पूरी का पूरा बंसल परिवार की कंपनियां, पीडब्ल्यूडी के द्वारा उनके इलीगल बिल, छतरपुर की लैंड की डील, उसके अलावा कितनी लैंड की डील की खबरें आ रही हैं, बंसल परिवार की कितनी कंपनियों को सरकार से फायदा हुआ है, कितनी कंपनियों के इलीगल। क्या ये सवाल उठाने बंद कर देंगे अगर एक व्यक्ति की अचानक मृत्यु हो गई? जिस दिन सवाल उठाए गए उस दिन मेरे को लगता है कि अगर मृत्यु की इतनी संवेदना थी, आज तो अरविंद केजरीवाल जी विधानसभा में बैठ के हंसते हुए दिखाई दिए मेरे को, तो संवेदना कहां चली गई उनकी?
तो क्या एग्जैक्टली चार्जेस हैं? आपने सतेंद्र जैन के हवाले से या बाकी मिनिस्टर्स के हवाले से किस तरीके से अरविंद केजरीवाल के ब्रदर इन लॉ को फायदा पहुंचाते हुए आपकी सरकार को देखा?
मेरी जो जानकारी में तथ्य आए हैं उसमें कुछ लैंड की इलीगल डील कराई गई है और पीडब्ल्यूडी के फर्जी बिलों को, लगभग 10 करोड़ के बिलों को क्लियर किया गया। ये दो मेरी जानकारी में। आज एंटी करप्शन ब्यूरो ने एक मामला और दर्ज किया है। रोज नई इन्फॉर्मेशन आ रही है, ये मेरी जानकारी में है। लेकिन सतेंद्र जैन जी के मंत्रालयों में और विभागों में भयानक भ्रष्टाचार, टेंडर की गड़बड़ी, नियमों का उल्लंघन और सगे संबंधियों को पद देने के मामले सामने आए हैं। थोड़े दिन पहले उन्होंने अपनी बेटी को अपने मंत्रालय में पद दिया था, तब मैंने अरविंद केजरीवाल जी को फोन करके कहा था कि या तो इनकी बेटी का इस्तीफा करवा लीजिए या मेरा इस्तीफा ले लीजिए।
क्यों सत्येंद्र जैन पे इतना मेहरबान है अरविंद केजरीवाल? अरविंद केजरीवाल सत्येंद्र जैन पे इतने मेहरबान क्यों है?
जब खुद के सगे संबंधियों को फायदा पहुंचाया जाएगा तो मेहरबानी तो होती ही है साहब।
आपको नहीं लगता कि ये वही राजनीति है जिसके खिलाफ अरविंद केजरीवाल ने मोर्चा खोला? अब अगर उनके ब्रदर इन लॉ को वाकई में जैसा आप कह रहे हैं फायदा पहुंचाया गया और अगर ये प्रूव हो जाता है तो केजरीवाल को इस्तीफा देना पड़ेगा।
मेरे को लगता है कि जिस राजनीति के लिए हम आए थे उस राजनीति में इनके ब्रदर इन लॉ को दिल्ली के सचिवालय में कभी एक कदम भी नहीं रखना चाहिए था, मंत्रालय के अंदर कभी आना ही नहीं चाहिए था।
आते थे क्या? आपने देखा था वहां पे?
को कोई पद देना ही नहीं चाहिए था। ऐसी राजनीति के लिए हम आए थे।
क्या सुरिंदर बंसल दिल्ली सचिवालय में आते थे? आपने खुद देखा इसको?
में बैठते थे, मीटिंगें करते थे। जी हाँ, मैंने खुद देखा है। मेरे से भी मिलवाने की एक बार कोशिश की गई थी।
आप बहुत सीरियस बात कह रहे हैं। आप कह रहे हैं कि आपने खुद देखा कि अरविंद केजरीवाल के ब्रदर इन लॉ सचिवालय में, कैबिनेट से जो जहां पे मीटिंग्स हो रही थी वहां पे आया करते थे?
बिल्कुल सचिवालय में आया करते थे। सचिवालय के विजिटिंग रिकॉर्ड्स में उनके डिटेल मिल जाएंगे।
और आपने देखा कि आम आदमी पार्टी की सरकार केजरीवाल के ब्रदर इन लॉ को फायदा पहुंचा रही थी?
इस मामले की तो अब जांच भी शुरू हो गई है। एंटी करप्शन ब्यूरो में एफआईआर दर्ज है और सीबीआई में आज मैं खुद जानकारी देकर आया हूं।
Now here is one of the senior most leaders of the Aam Aadmi Party, till recently minister in the Kejriwal government, saying he saw Kejriwal's brother-in-law come and attend government meetings or sit in on meetings that were taking place. Ankit Tyagi, these are very disturbing charges, and so far we haven't seen a response from the Aam Aadmi Party government on this. What is the whole equation with Surinder Bansal, Kejriwal's brother-in-law? Why can't they come clean? Why can't they tell us what was going on and why? And if what Kapil Mishra is saying is not true, given the seriousness of the charges, they should be taking very, very stringent action. Instead, they're just, pretending that if they lie low, not answer, the story will go away. It's not going anywhere. They need to answer.
That's right, Rahul. I can only tell you what the Aam Aadmi Party has been thinking or doing in the last few days. The entire plan now is to ensure that A, the Chief Minister is not going to speak on these charges, especially all the charges that Kapil Mishra is making. They have been saying that the Chief Minister is only going to speak about governance and he's only going to speak about whatever, the party is going to decide as far as their organization is concerned. Now, as
but
far
that's
as
very
these
convenient,
allegations are
Ankit.
concerned,
If this had been Manmohan Singh, they would have had a completely different approach.
Absolutely, and we have seen this before. When Arvind Kejriwal started his politics, he made charges against 15 UPA ministers, asked them to resign even before these things went to the court. But so far, the Aam Aadmi Party has been saying that the investigation in these matters are on. If somebody is found guilty, they are not going to interfere or ask for any leniency. They should be brought to the book. That is exactly what they have been saying so far on the record and off the record as well.
Arun Bhatia, what a fall from grace this is. Given the high moral pedestal that Arvind Kejriwal had sought to usurp or command for himself, from there on now, I want to show you what happened when my colleague Anandyo Banerjee tried to take Kejriwal's reaction. We've been tracking him now for many days. We try to get close to him, people around him, try and ensure our reporters can't get close. And Manish Sisodia spoke very rudely, didn't answer the question, just tried to dismiss the expose. There are documents from within the Delhi government, documents which show that Kejriwal's officials knew that the brother-in-law's firm is misbehaving, doing wrong things, engaging in dubious activities. Let's show you what happened.
Mr. Kejriwal, why not silent, sir? Mr. Kejriwal, why not silent? There are massive allegations, sir. Mr. Kejriwal, why not silent, sir? Mr. Kejriwal, why not silent? There are massive allegations and issues, sir. Mr. Kejriwal, why are you not talking, sir? Mr. Kejriwal, again, day after day, India Today has been trying their level best to get an answer from Arvind Kejriwal, the Chief Minister of Delhi. yesterday the Deputy Chief Minister, when we put that question, he brazened it out. Rather, he hit back at India Today. And today, again, when we pose that question to the Chief Minister himself, whose own role in multiple cases have been under suspicion, he himself also brazened it out, went inside, not even bothering to answer the question that needs an answer, the question that has been persistently raised by India Today. Reporting from New Delhi with Alok Kumar Das, I am Morning Banerjee for India Today. Sir, why is Chief Minister silent? Why is the Chief Minister not talking, sir?
Actually, आप लोग एजेंडा चला रहे हो, आप लोग सब तमाम तरह के काले धंधे प्रोटेक्ट करते हो, आपको कुछ पता नहीं है, आप एजेंडा चला रहे हो, इसलिए आपको कोई जवाब नहीं देता है, जो सवाल थे उनके जवाब.
You know, and Manish Sisodia has been a former colleague. We worked together for a few years. He would have laughed this off with contempt had he been a journalist still. Instead of, insinuations, they should answer questions. Was this letter written by the PWD engineer or not? Did the PWD engineer say that Arvind Kejriwal's brother-in-law's firm was browbeating them, threatening them, intimidating him? Why was the engineer transferred? Why was the engineer transferred? Why was action not taken against the firm? Is this the kind of politics that Kejriwal came to do, Kisle? You heard what Manish Sisodia is saying. First, Kejriwal is running away from our cameras. Manish Sisodia says it's an agenda. If it's an agenda, let him come live, respond to the very factual questions we're asking.
No, these are deplorable comments of Mr. Sisodia, but the problem is that this complaint is not as simple as we see. This is the cause, and the action is that the complainant is being punished. He has been transferred. Now the second part is, in other words, it's a message to other employees of PWD that, look, if you come out with the truth, this is how we are going to deal with you. So nobody will come out against them. And how the justice will be rendered, that is very dangerous.
Sanjay Jha, people will draw comparisons with Robert Vadra. In Robert Vadra's case as well, there were no direct linkages found where it could be suggested that Sonia Gandhi or Rahul Gandhi tried to directly benefit Robert Vadra. But just because of who he was, it put the Congress in a very awkward situation where he seemed to have been given favors which others would not have got. Where land, which was agricultural land, suddenly gets converted. You've got an official who does that. In the same case here, you've got officials complaining about the dubious activities of Renu Construction instead of acting against Renu Construction. You've got Surinder Bansal who gets benefited. And the official gets transferred. This is not justice at all. This is the opposite of what should have been done. This is the opposite of what the government's response should have been. Not just a party like the Aam Aadmi Party, but any party's response should have been the opposite of what actually happened.
Well, Rahul, let me tell you, I don't want to reopen a past debate, but the attack against Mr. Vadra has got a very vicious political kind of strategy behind it. I don't want to even get into it. But this more fundamental point is for both AAP and the BJP. Rahul, we need to apply the common yardstick, the same that was applied on the Congress earlier. You'll remember many of our senior leaders resigned on mere allegations, and they actually quit their positions that they held in the cabinet. But here you have a situation today where the Aam Aadmi Party is riding roughshod. The BJP, interestingly, the BJP is taking the model grandstanding. But let me tell you, by that same token, Kirti Azad has made allegations against Arun Jaitley of his own party in DDCA corruption. Did anybody resign? Are all the chief ministers of BJP not facing some serious questions on financial skullduggery? They continue to, kind of still be the royal, titans of the BJP in different states. So you are talking about very dubious political hypocrisy and disingenuous conduct.
Respond to that, he's saying that Kirti Azad has leveled similar charges against Arun Jaitley. The BJP tried to brazen that through. Let Sambit respond. I'm running out of time, so final word, Sambit.
I would rather say to my good friend Mr. Sanjay Jha that those who have National Herald bail, bail accused, remember both mother and the son are out on bail, and those stones others, and I don't want to open pointed out over. The main person over here is Mr. Arvind Kejriwal, and let me tell you, your own expose shows the complicity of Mr. Kejriwal. Remember, it began by saying that a drain which was functioning well was broken so that a new drain can be constructed and money made out of the new drain. So naturally there was wrong in the very beginning. And thereafter, if I heard rightly, the PWD engineer, he was saying that the lowest bid was made at 42%, and the bid in fact was taken out by Mr. Arvind Kejriwal's Kins company. So naturally there was complicity right from the very beginning. This does not happen out of the blue. All this happened only when you have structured corruption. So this was a case of
whether or not there is structured corruption, and I'm disagreeing. If you look at our approach on this story, compare this with any other channel, and you've seen some rather noisy channels in our competitive space, they would have gone crazy, held in public inquisition, lynched Kejriwal on TV to whatever extent possible. We're not being unfair. We're giving the Aam Aadmi Party an opportunity to come and respond to questions. Have put those questions out in the public domain, whether it is Sanjay Singh, Manish Sisodia or Kejriwal himself. An open invitation to come and speak to me or any of our reporters and answer the basic questions that are being asked. Disturbing questions you can't run away from. I want to end this broadcast by pulling out and reminding Arvind Kejriwal about something he said when he was in the India Against Corruption, the anti-corruption movement. These are very, very prophetic words when you look back at them, and words that Kejriwal should really listen to, because it's he who's speaking and it's he who needs to live up to the same standards he set out for others. Because if you don't live up to the standards you set for others, what standards will you live by? Here is Arvind Kejriwal himself. I hope he's watching this broadcast. I'm told he's tracking our coverage very closely. Mr. Kejriwal, an open invitation to come and answer basic questions. Listen to yourself tonight.
इस कुर्सी के अंदर कुछ ना कुछ समस्या है. जो इस कुर्सी के ऊपर बैठता है वही गड़बड़ हो जाता है. तो कहीं ऐसा तो नहीं कि इस आंदोलन से जब विकल्प निकलेगा और वो लोग जब कुर्सी पे जाके बैठेंगे, कहीं वो ना भ्रष्ट हो जाएं, कहीं वो ना गड़बड़ करने लगें. ये एक भारी चिंता है हम लोगों के मन में.